Hey, welcome back to SureFire Live. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. I always say the same thing when we start. I hope you guys are having a good week. It's right before Thanksgiving. I think we all have a lot to be thankful for in so many ways. And, this week in the chimney industry, we lost a good friend of ours. And, he's a big influence on the whole industry. His influence on me specifically, and he was Charlie Quayle is who I'm remembering tonight, and good friend of ours, and he passed suddenly, and it makes you take account of how things can happen very quickly, and how thankful we must be on a daily basis, on a moment by moment basis, being present, being real, being thankful and grateful. I think that it's the key to happiness is being grateful. And if you can be grateful, you can be, a lot of things don't matter as much as you might make them up to be. And especially, I haven't found too many ungrateful people that are very happy. And so you can always want more in your life, thinking that's going to make you happy, but that's very rarely the case. And there's a lot of people that would love to be in your position right now. And I bet the younger you in your life would probably be pretty excited about the things that you may have in your life. Just being grateful, I think, is the key. And so I just want to remember Charlie and thankful for him. That being said, I have another mentor that I'm very grateful for, and he and I like to cry together. We get a little teary-eyed together, and I think he taught me that. It's his fault. But John Meredith is our guest tonight, and many of you know him. He's been a huge influence on our whole industry. If you're in the chimney industry, you've been influenced by him. He continues to make great products. He continues to mentor people and help people at any moment. So with that being said, I'm going to bring John on. Hey, John, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm good, man.
Always good to spend time with you, bro.
Yeah, well, always good to spend. Thank you for doing the show tonight. I'm so appreciative of you. I do, in the spirit of remembering Charlie, without, I know it can get sensitive, but you knew Charlie well. I just wanted your take on Charlie Quayle and what he meant to you.
Yeah, Charlie was, the best way to describe Charlie was a prince of a man. He was just, he was always one of these guys, I call it tact, talk after careful thinking. I'm a hoarder.
I like that.
So Charlie always used tact, and you could always see his wheels turning. Well, one of the things that he had a big influence on me. But one of the things that I remember most about Charlie was, one of his values in his company was honor all with excellence.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
He really strived for excellence, and that the way he treated his employees, the way he conducted himself, he just lived a life of excellence. Is probably the best way I could eulogize Charlie Quayle. He was, and when you were in his presence, it was always so calming, and you just felt like you were loved and appreciated.
Also motivated. He was full of energy, had great ideas. And I remember, one of the first times I met him, he was going along doing his thing, and I met him at a convention, and we were just talking, and I said, well, man, what's the plan? What's next for you? That question to him changed his life. And he said, I don't know that I have a plan. I thought I was doing the plan. I'm like, that's fine. But is that it? Are you it? And he's like, oh my God. He said that question specifically made me go back. And then he got into lean training. He got into building the business. He got into building systems, and he wanted to build something that then he became not about him, but what was next for him. And that was a very interesting, probably 10 years at least.
Yeah, he really started to give back. He really got a hold of lean and really and mastered it and taught it to a lot of people. And he was a great guy. I was shocked when I heard the news
Yeah.
Because he was a runner, he was really fit,
Yeah.
and
Super in shape. Kicked
yeah,
my butt 4 or 5 years ago. We ran the thing at the NCSG convention, the Chimney Chase, I think, and I was in pretty good shape. And Charlie was running backwards, talking to me. Like, he was just crushing me, and I was trying, really hard, but he was a great person. When you shook his hand, I mean, he was strong. When he was
yeah,
a wrestler, I was a wrestler too, but when he grabbed you, you knew it.
yeah. It's funny.
Miss that guy. Yeah.
Well, his funeral's on Saturday, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna be remembered. I hope they stream it, so I'd like to watch it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But anyway, so thank you for that. Well, let's talk about John Meredith. John Meredith is living
That
the dream.
reminds me of something you told me once. Let's talk about let's
Oh.
talk about me. Let's talk about you. What do you think about me?
Right. My friend was a crazy narcissist one time, and he's like, "Well, that's enough talking about me, Mark. Let's talk about you. What do you think about me?" I love that. Anyway,
I've used that one many times before. It's a great line.
So funny. But so again, man, you have made so many of the products, and I know your story inside and out because it affected me, but in so many ways. But can you tell people just a quick version of how you got into products? You were a chimney sweep, right? And you saw an opening. How did you even get into this, what you do now?
Well, I was a firefighter, and I had a chimney sweep business and a couple of trucks, and I just saw some opportunities, and I found a couple of people that were stupid enough to loan me, $50,000, and
so you got some partners early on.
Yeah.
But why did you take the loan? What did you see that said, you know what, I need some capital to make this happen? What did you see?
Yeah, I mean, I sold my chimney sweep company, and I used my pension from the fire department, and so it's still a little short. But yeah, I just needed to get some capital, to get equipment and get started. And so I was able to. I borrowed like $25,000 from my brother-in-law. This was like back in probably the mid '80s, and 25,000 from a relative. And thankfully, I was able to pay them both back, because Thanksgiving and Christmas would have been a little tenuous had I not. So,
Right. Eating alone.
Yeah, wouldn't have been too many warm embraces there. But anyway, so yeah, I was fortunate enough to stave off bankruptcy for the last, I don't know, 30 plus years, I guess. So, and we've had a lot of close calls, but over the years. But at some point in time, your business gains a momentum, and then it just it's like it takes on a life form of its own, I guess.
Well, to me, you always have a different reason for doing it. Like, to me, when I watch you develop products, it's to help others first. Every one of your products are like, well, this will solve a problem, and this will help that, that problem. And to me, when I've ever known you, it really wasn't ever about the money. It was about the pursuit. And then you're just such a visionary about what's needed. You put your efforts and everything into creating the thing. And I think whenever you're always on the edge like that, you can also be on the edge of money. Like you don't want to just get a big pile of money and say, see you later. You're like, I got a pile of money. What can I do with it?
That's really interesting you say that, because so what we do is one of our strategies, we want 20% of our revenues in 5 years to be products that don't exist today.
Oh, that's cool. That's a goal of everybody.
Yeah, so that's one of our kind of our operational things. And so, the other thing, I felt like, this is going to sound kind of weird, but I felt like one of the reasons God put me on the planet was to be a blessing to chimney sweeps. And so I've loved sweeping. I've loved the people in the industry, and I've always wanted to help just build and generate wealth for them. And that's, that comes out in, not only just the products, but, the education we provide, the literature and the websites. We try to, take the selling out of it, if you will, to a degree that we can, and really create wealth for the guys in this industry. So
I can tell you have for our company. I mean, if we're able to put Chimney Saver products on a chimney, we pretty much make money. They are they're good. They're first class products. They do what they advertise, and then they're very profitable for us too. So you've done that. I mean, if we all had to make money on sweeping chimneys, it'd be a very different industry. But through your products, they have all helped so many people. I got a couple comments real quick. Thankful for all the great conversations I've had with John, one of the very best guys in the industry. And then also I've only heard good things about Charlie. I never actually met him, but his son is awesome. He's an awesome guy himself. So that was kind of about her. So good stuff. I'm sorry again. I talk about this all the time. I don't get all my comments. I get some of them on here and I can't tell who they are. I got to talk to StreamYard to help me put all the conversation together. But I would also like to know, whoever's listening, and it says Facebook user 1, I would like to know what stream you're watching so you can comment so I can put them up, because I need to watch that, because some of my other streams I can't comment on. So just tell me what you're watching on. Okay, so back to the topic, John. That being said, you've developed a lot of stuff. I did want to talk about, you've got some you've got some upcoming events that help chimney companies. And several years ago, real quick, Justin Fell, you're on Facebook, but what feed are you on Facebook? Are you on my page? Are you on SureFire's page? Are you on Chimney World, or what feed are you actually clicked on, if you can figure that out? So, and then I'll get off that topic. He's on Chimney World. Lou Curley is. Okay. He's on SureFire. I can see both of those. Chimney. Oh, so that's weird. Okay. I'm not seeing anything from my personal feed or LinkedIn. Sometimes LinkedIn comes in, but anyway. All right. Tommy Nelms, he's on SureFire training. John is an amazing guy. Oh, so this is what I got.
Hey, buddy. I love you, man. You're
Tommy
awesome.
Nelms, John's an amazing guy. I never forget his class on developing a personal mission statement. It was powerful. You know, I like that, John. It kind of plays right into what we're talking about your mission. That your mission from God was to, help chimney sweep. Can you explain what Tommy's talking about here, what he's referencing?
Well, I don't know what specific seminar he was at, but, one of the things, the summits, and bro, we need to make Tommy needs to come to the summit. We need to get Tommy at the summit.
Tommy needs an invite, but Tommy doesn't do well in the sun. Tommy is pretty pale. He needs a lot of sunscreen or something, because he turns red instantly.
It's all right. I'll buy him a hat. I'll get him a heat shield hat.
Give him a heat shield hat.
So anyway, you talked about the summit, and so one of the things that I think was really helpful for me was to kind of get a personal mission statement of kind of what your life is about. And then I read it. I don't read it every day, but I probably read it as often as I think about it. But I've read it probably hundreds and hundreds of times over the years. But it always kind of helps me get grounded and helps me kind of get refocused. And I think it was probably at your summit is where Tommy's talking.
That's what he just said. He said when we did at Ford Ice Center, he said the sun hates me. He's so funny.
The summits, I want to talk about that because that's a real passion of mine. So, I've always had a passion for what gets me the most juice is when I hear a guy say, dude, I came to the summit and I did what they talked about, and my business is up 30%. Now I can go on that vacation, or I can start funding my retirement, or I can send my kids to college, or because of putting action to the things that we talk about at the summit. And the summits are kind of weird in the sense that I just choose speakers and I don't really tell them what to talk about. And I just think, and it's kind of like it's divinely orchestrated, if you will. I mean, it just all comes together. I've never experienced anything quite like it, but it's amazing. There's usually a lot of tears, and so a lot of so it was funny because the last time we did was in Florida, and one of the guys walked in and he goes, "Why is there Kleenex on the table?"
I know it. You put Kleenex on all the tables. It's so funny.
And then after about the second day, he goes, "Oh, I see why there's Kleenex on the table." I mean, because we did some high level stuff, man. We We helped you define what success looks like. We helped, we wrote eulogies. We wrote letters to ourselves that we mailed to you back in a year. And we talked about, some of the big rocks in life and kind of getting things in order. We didn't really talk that much about business building in that summit, but we have in the past. But
it's really not about chimneys either, right? I mean,
we didn't
really,
talk about
there's almost nothing about chimneys.
Almost nothing about chimneys. So that's what's kind of unusual about it. But when I hear people say, that really changed my, DNA a little bit, and made me a better person, better businessman. I'm gonna get clarity about what's really important to me in life. And so those are the kind of things that really give me a lot of juice when I can see someone, when I can help some, just be a small part of their journey and making it a little bit better and maybe a little bit easier, will help them get clarity around that. I remember I think it was the second summit I did back in 2010. It was your first time speaking in front of anybody, really. It's kind of launched you in the speaking.
That's the first time I ever talked to anybody about, because I'd just gone through hell. And you're like, hey, come talk about you going through hell.
Well, and you were the leadoff speaker, and I just said, tell me, just come and share about what you've been going through. And you were so open and so humble. And, you basically told the story about how you screwed it up and you let everybody go, and, you're starting back again. And man, we were all in tears, but what you did, you set the tone for, we do the summits every other year because they're really emotionally intense, and it's kind of hard to keep up that intensity by doing it every year.
Right.
So we give it time to breathe, but you set the tone for all the summits that we've had since then.
I appreciate that. It's an honor to get to do that.
You've been our leadoff. You've been the leadoff batter ever since, bro.
I love it. I take it very seriously. And I think, again, I learned a lot from you being, just be real. It's not about anything that's cocky or, you've had some other colorful terms. It's about business and what it's like to try to run a business and be a good steward and be a person in the business and helping others. And I like this story, and we can get back to the summit in a second, but one of the first times I met you, I've told you this story. I heard about you before I met you, obviously. And this one guy told me, he's like, I said, who came up with this chimney saver thing? He's like, some idiot in Indiana. Like, and I'm from Indiana, like some idiot like came up with this. He's like, yeah, man, have you ever met the guy? He's kind of crazy and weird. And I'm like, no, I've never met him. And so I had this and me and Tommy had the same thing. Tommy thought I was the Antichrist, and I thought he was terrible till we met each other. So when I met you, I'm like, and then you have a way of talking to him. Like, is he, you were just a different guy. I never met really talking about like you, but then you said, you and I need to hang out sometime. And I remember you saying that. And then you won some money at the casino. And I always say this story because I actually wrote about it in my book, because then you won some money and I was broke. I didn't know if my credit card was going to work to get out of the hotel. And you had a stack of $25 chips, and you would see somebody and you would slide a 25 in their hand, or you would say, hey man, I hope you're doing well. And you'd slide one in their pocket. I'm like, who does that? I mean, can I have some of those chips? But I learned a lot from you, and I thought, if I ever make it, if I ever get out of this hole I'm in, I want to be like John Meredith. I want to do that kind of thing. And I appreciate that. And to your point about the summit, it teaches people how to be humble servants. Yeah. And I've always got a lot from that. Let me read a couple things real quick. So I'll tell you this too, Tommy Nelms, if that meant that much to him at Ford Ice Center, he's got a life that should be replicated, because the dude is a volunteer firefighter. Now he's the president of CSI. He's a giver. He's a great leader. He's a great family guy. He's came up with Sweep Away Cancer. Like, the dude is superstar. So, so this was that one. So a couple quick things. Junior White. Hi, Junior. Good to see you. It was way more than business growth. That definitely happened. But more importantly, I think I walked away from the class better husband and father. That was Tommy. This is TJ Robinson. He says, John is a great friend. I'm glad we're friends. And I
Thanks,
will
Tim.
never forget John's CSIA NCSG videos when COVID hit. Yeah, it helped the entire industry. That was big. Those were big because we were all scared. And you're like, man, let me get out in front of this and give you guys as much information as I can. Let's have some town halls. Let's talk about this. That's a great point. Those were great. And then Penny says, hello there, John. Good to see you. Miss you, buddy. So I always just keep people involved in the conversation. So let's go back to why you even did the summit. I mean, I don't think you knew, you just wanted to get guys together, but you didn't know how transformative I think they would be, or did you?
No, I really didn't. You know, it was so the summits are interesting. We stay at a pretty high level, and we had my friend who's more of a mentor than a friend, but he's certainly a friend. But you know, Clay Mathiel started Aileron, and he was a billionaire, and he came and zoomed in once and came and spoke live once. You know, that was pretty cool. I mean, just. Yeah. So what you learn and you earn and you give back, and Clay taught me, a lot about giving back. So, one of the things that I think is really important in life is to give back. And so, the summits are, I don't know how to describe them. I've never experienced anything quite like them. I've been to a lot of business seminars, but these are, I don't know. I mean, tell me what your thoughts are on the summit.
Well, like you said, you never tell us speakers what to speak about. You're like, I'd like you to speak. And then it's funny how they almost magically tie together.
Isn't it weird?
Bob Ferrari's been one of your speakers, and he and I remember and then Clay Lamb, and you've had a lot of great speakers, but they seem to tie in, but with a slightly different angle. And I've learned so many of the things at those summits I've taken away and used them every day since. And when I trace it back, a lot of times when you're in the middle of something, you don't remember where you learned it, but so many things I trace back to what Bob Ferrari said, or what Clay Lamb said, or Clayton Mathiel, or you said, and hopefully maybe what I said to some people about how we do things. It's just a different thing. You can't really get it at any other convention because it's one, there's a depth to all of us that we know each other. Two, you have that, that giving spirit. So we're all in the giving mode. Like I don't know. I think you've created something that is very special.
Yeah, it is hard to describe, but I mean, I guess the best way to describe it is it's kind of, life-changing, it can be. I mean, it has been for a lot of people. Certainly been for me. I've learned, I always sit in the back of the room and I always kind of go last. A lot of times I don't know what I'm speaking on till the very last day, and I try to put a bow on it. Sometimes I go for an hour, sometimes I go for 10 minutes, but I try to just kind of wrap it all up and send everybody out. But this year, and we changed the format of the summit. Last year we did half days. So we kind of doing it in fun places. So this year we had a great venue at Captiva Island, wonderful resort there, and of course it no longer exists because of the hurricane. So we've been scrambling a little bit to find a new venue, but we found a great venue in Key Largo, Florida, and it's the Reef House Resort. And so but what we do is it's 8 to 12, and so 3 days of 8 to 12. So you come in Monday night, we have a little cocktail party, and then it's Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then Friday you check out, or you can stay a couple extra days if you want. But anyway, it's kind of nice because what we've done is we tried to provide, I always learn a lot at the conventions, just sitting around talking to people. And so I wanted to create more space for relationships.
Yeah.
Because in the past, the summits were like 9 to 5, speaker. And it was like drinking from, not only a fire hose, but maybe a dozen fire hoses.
Yeah. And
it was just so intense. And so we've kind of pulled back a little bit and just given a lot more space to sit around by the pool and kind of perseverate on, what was talked about. When I took people through that writing your eulogy exercise, that was pretty intense. And
Yeah. So explain that to people that weren't there. What was the premise?
so the concept is kind of beginning with the end in mind. So what do you want the people sitting on the front row of your funeral to say about you?
Yeah.
And then kind of, okay, what do I got? What's that look like living backwards to get to that point? So, it was a whole exercise where like took people through, and then you kind of I gave you some space, and everybody wrote their eulogies, and then we had some people read them, and that was pretty intense.
Yeah.
Those are, but it really made you think about, okay, what would I want it to look like when I got to the end,
Yeah.
And it was pretty. There wasn't many dry eyes in the room, I can tell you that. So. And nobody wants to be the dead guy,
Yeah, exactly. I look in the mirror, I'm like, man, I'm getting older, but there's no other choice. You either get older or you don't. So I'll go with getting older.
But it's funny because that had a big impact on me once I kind of got clarity around, what I want people to say that's sitting on the front row of my funeral, because, it's sometimes. The other day I came home and I was my wife did something. I was kind of angry about it, and I was getting ready to kind of let her have it a little bit, and then I remembered, wait a minute, that's not congruent with how I want to end up. I don't want her to remember those kinds of things about me. So I just kept my mouth shut, and I just kind of went on loving her, and
that's just a guy that's been married for a long time. How to keep him married for a long time. That's just wisdom.
I will give your listeners one great tidbit. This is the secret to happiness in life, and you probably want to write this down. So you grab a pen. So the secret to happiness is to keep all the women in your life happy, whether you live with them or work with them.
Right.
And if you don't think that's true, try making them all miserable and see how life goes for you.
Very wise. Very wise. Yes, I think we can all agree that is very good. Couple quick things. Penny Seals said,
Hi, Penny, I miss you.
Back to the videos that you did for the town hall. She said she enjoyed them and had fun organizing them. So yes, you got to keep Penny happy too. You don't want to make Penny miserable. She does a lot of work.
I live to make Penny happy. So
you do? Wow, I think she'll like to hear that. And then I can't wait to see you all at the summit. So tell people. So it's mostly for Heatshield dealers. Like, can I put a link in here for if people want more information on it?
Yeah, I can. You want me to send you a link, or do you just want to go?
Just tell me what it is.
If you go to Heatshield Pro, I think it's on the cover page. There's a little video on there of kind of the sizzle reel from the last one.
Is that heatshieldpro.com?
Yeah.
Okay. And then is there a password?
There is. I think it's Chimney Master, all lowercase.
So it's
don't quote me on that, but anyway, it's there's a video on there, and all the forms and everything are on there. So this year we've got the leadoff speaker is going to be Mark Stoner, as always.
An honor.
We've really got some amazing speakers this year. I got a Dr. Kelly Crace, who's written a lot of books, but primarily hard focused on life values inventory. He came up with something called life values inventory, which, when you think about it, if life's not going well, it's because if you're frustrated or angry or something, there's something in your life that's kind of not consistent with your values, and so there's some incongruency there. So, he's gonna give us a good couple hours on figuring out what your life values are, and then once you kind of get clarity around that, it's a lot easier. A lot of things get a lot easier, once you're able to identify your values, and you're able to kind of figure out how you want to end up, and kind of what your definition of success is. That was one of the seminars we did, was defining success. Philip Stoller did that one. He's our president, and he did a great job with that. But that was really interesting, kind of defining success. And the one thing about success that, you don't want to climb the ladder and find out you put it up against the wrong wall, right? So, success can mean different things to different people, but success is more about just living consistent with your values. And
Yeah, I mean, success is what you say it is. Success to you is what you say it is. And if you don't feel successful, you've got to figure out where to put that ladder to make you feel successful. And that is a tough thing to climb it, because what's funny about achieving goals is no matter what, when you achieve them, it doesn't feel like you thought it would. And it feels like you still need to do more. Or that's always how it's felt with me. Like, it's not like you've reached an end. You've just reached you just got, and there's no end, there's no there, as they say.
Well, when I asked my billionaire friend, Clay Mathiel, how do you define success? He says, win at home, win at home first.
Well, yeah, right.
I mean, so, that was pretty interesting, but, I came up with a definition of success for me, which, is kind of an anchor for me is, and I stole some of it from Mia Angelou, but she's, her definition of success was liking who you were, what you did, and how you did it. And I've added on to that, to have the people that know you best respect you the most.
Oh,
so I've kind of combined those two for me.
Yeah.
And that really, when we do birthdays, a lot of times we go around the room and share what we appreciate about that person. And the rule is you can only say thank you.
I love that.
And so that usually ends in tears too, right? But my son-in-law hates it. He doesn't. I'm not doing that. But anyway, one of the things my daughter said, she appreciated about me was my integrity. And I tell you what, that really rocked me, when she said that.
Yeah.
I was.
All right, you can't cry yet. We still got 30 minutes. We can't break down.
But she said, hey, for my daughter, I appreciate that you've always been a man of integrity in our family and my life, and that coming from her.
Well, you remember were you at the Warrior Horse Leader Summit down at Kevin's place? You were. So you remember the coach guy, Muskie, and he called his kids from the stage.
Yes.
And he said, hey, what's in my life? What's the most important thing to me? And his kid on the live, the kid had no idea what he was doing, and said, I'm the most important. Your family's the most important thing to you, live on stage. And this guy was a pro hockey coach. He worked for the Predators. He worked for the Shreveport guys. And man, we were all blown away at that live. Like, I'll tell you, to show you what I'm not full of crap, I'm going to call my kid right now and ask him what's the most important part of my life. At that point, when he did that, I don't know that if I called my kids, they would say the same. I don't. I mean,
I don't either. I would agree with that. It's, that I need to be more intentional about that.
Yeah.
I think they know it. I hope they know it, but I don't know that I've ever told them that.
He knew they knew it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's good. That was an amazing moment.
That was
so I think this is Kevin here. He said, old Kevin here, looking forward to seeing y'all at the summit. I think we're talking. It doesn't tell me who I'm talking to right here on this one.
Old Kevin there.
I think that's old Kevin. But anyway, so good stuff. So I do want to kind of transition this a little bit. A lot of conversations I'm having right now are with guys who are a little bit scared of what's going on in their industry, not in the industry, in the economy, in their business. Some of these guys have never been through hard times. They've kind of been riding a wave for the last probably 10 years. It's been a constant up. And, right at COVID, it was super up and like we could do no wrong. And a lot of us knew, I said, this is going to come down. It's going to come down. It probably, as if it's going up super fast, it's going to come down super fast. We all know that, but it sure does suck when it's happening. You've been through a lot of ups and downs. So real quick, it was Kevin Russell.
Hey, brother.
Love you, man. So if people are scared And if people are facing the first time when the tide is going out, right? We Tim Reed said a great thing. He goes, man, when the tide goes out, you see who was skinny dipping, who was just riding that wave. And now tide goes out and you don't have good business practices. You may not have good people in places. You may not have good leadership. Like you said this before, sales covers up a lot of sins, or he said mustard covers up a lot of sins, but sales does too. So when sales kind of go away, you start feeling a different pressure. Can you talk to people who may be facing that for the first time?
Yeah, I mean, of course, business is a series of cycles. I think the most difficult thing as a business person is, when things are great, you think they're always going to be great. When things are bad, you think they're always going to be bad. And the reality is neither one is true. But I actually think we're into our industry actually is going to go. I remember, so I got this thing back in the I started chimney sweeping in like 81, and the economy was pretty tough back then. But, one of the things that will help us is high energy prices, because people are looking for alternative energy. They're going to spend money on things that will save them money. And so I think the couple of big wins here, I think there's going to be a lot more of the big ticket items are going to be helped by insurance companies. And that's why, a lot of guys are including the PriorFIre now in their liner estimates, and the insurance companies are taking it. They're saying, hey, we need to replace the system. This is the fireplace. This is the liner system, and it's $20,000 ticket.
Right.
And so there's a lot of guys that are doing that now. So I think the insurance company is going to be a trough that we're going to have to feed on a little bit harder for those bigger ticket items, because I think there's fewer people out there that are willing to spend that kind of money, at least in the markets. Maybe not in your market, but your market's kind of like the land of milk and honey. But
yeah, we got a little shield around us because everybody's coming here. But in that, so you've been through tough times. And you just keep coming, man. You keep coming. You keep innovating. When you're going through a hard time, what do you do? Like, I've seen some people get depressed. I've seen some people come through it, just work twice as hard. Is there a secret sauce? Is there a secret grit, or is there a thing you tell yourself? I can tell you what I tell myself, but what do you say when times are hard? Or do you pray? I mean, like, what is your?
That's for sure. It does keep you on your knees. I'm not that smart. I just kind of ask God what to do, and then I just wait for the answer and do with a thought that comes to my head, and it's usually right. So I mean, so that's kind of how I do it. But no, I think it does keep you on your knees for sure. And I can't tell you. I remember one time, I thought, well, I can't do this anymore. This is too hard. And, I got an order for like $100,000 from Copperfield, like that afternoon, when I was getting ready to just throw it in the towel,
Really?
So, one phone call can kind of change your life. Right. So the next, something's going to happen good, but you do have to be, the kinds of things I've done is, when things are tight, we've gone through our whole income statement line by line and questioned every expense. Yeah. See what you can cut, right? Because if you make $100,000, and that's 10%. If you save, if you make 10%, on $1 million company, well, that's $100,000. But if you save $10,000, that's, or $100,000, that's $1 million in sales you don't have to have. So
right.
You got to look at those things. It does make you a better business person. You've got to be, kind of do things a little bit smarter, I guess. But the tough times that I've gone through in business have just made me better. And I think you got to watch out you don't become bitter,
Yeah.
And just keep your chin up, and just keep just being, like you said at the beginning of the show, being grateful, for what you do have, not perseverating on what you don't have or the things that are going wrong.
Totally. There'd be a lot of people that would love to have your problems. When you're having a hard time, they'd love to have your problems because they got bigger problems. But I'll tell you, one of the mistakes I made, I think, was I reacted too slowly to bad times. So when bad times were hitting, in my mind, my optimistic mind was, it's going to get better. Just hang on. Just hang on. It's going to get better. And that mentality, I didn't want to change anything internally. I just said, let's just hold tight. I'll take less money. I'll put it on my shoulders. I'm going to, and I don't want to have anybody suffer. I want to protect you, and I want to put it all on myself. And I did that until I just absolutely, that I was no longer viable. And so then everybody loses. I think the valuable lesson I learned is I have to make hard decisions early to protect everybody. I can't just shoulder it all, especially the bigger a company gets or the bigger an organization get. I can't shoulder it all, because if I go down, everybody goes down. If I lose it all, they all lose, versus make the hard decisions and the hard phone calls and hard cuts now while everybody still has a job and can understand why, versus that phone call and say, hey guys, it's not working. I got to let you go. Like,
well, one of the things, so I used to be a member of this, it was called CEB, Chief Executive Boards, and they would have summits every year, and then we didn't have any outside speakers. It was all internal speakers, but the MO was privately held manufacturing companies that were between 2 and 100 million in sales. And so we would get together, various times during the year and kind of help each other on our business. But one of the things at the summits that was always really impactful to me was the guys that went BK. We'd always ask them to come back and give us a kind of a what the hell happened.
Right.
And those were so impactful. But like you said, they were almost always, it was, hey, we had one customer that was 40% of our business, and we lost that customer, and we held on thinking we could replace the business, and it never happened, and we just ran out of cash.
Right.
But you're right. I mean, I've had days where, I've had to go in and, let people go, and man, it was hard, but you're right. You got to protect the family. You got to make the tough decisions. And, the other thing too about letting people go is, if they're not really working out for you, then you're kind of keeping them from walking in their purpose and destiny, right? Because it's not with you.
I need you to tell that story about what you tell people when you let them go, if you know what I'm talking about. I got to do this, but I heard that story.
Well, that's when I had to, that was kind of, that's what I tell family when they come to work for me. I have a lot of family. So I've had to fire my son years ago when he was, high school, college. But, I always tell him when first day of work, I had to fire my sister. I had to fire my daughter's boyfriend, so we've had a few Thanksgivings that have been a little tenuous, but, our family we put the fun in dysfunction, bro. So, but what I always tell them is, the first day I say, now, I just want to share with you, we're going to have we might have this conversation someday, and it's going to kind of go like this, as your employer, I have to inform you that you're no longer employed here, but hey, as your brother, as your dad, I understand you just lost your job. What can I do to help you?
I love that. I understand you just lost your job 1 second ago. How can I help you?
But I had that conversation on day one. So then, a year later.
You have that on day one. I like that. That's good.
So when you have to have that conversation, a year or two down the road, if you do, you always preface it with, do you remember that first conversation we had?
We're going to have to execute that. I love that way of, I heard you just lost your job. How can I help you? It's so good. So on that hard times thing, this person says, Mark, I remember when you talked about something as simple as checking your Verizon bill for the company to make sure you're getting the best deal and how it saved you thousands. So, I talked about that too in COVID. Like one of the first things we did, and we do it all the time, we go through the bill, like our IT company, our phone company, our insurance company, we go check all of our vendors and see if there's a better deal. And you'll be so surprised. So I'll give you a quick example. Our IT company, I was paying about $4,000 a month for full service. They weren't great. I shopped them, found better service for $2,500. That one phone call and a couple other Zoom meetings, I saved $25,000. Did the same thing with my phone company and my IT company. Those two things together saved $50,000. And to your point, at profit, that means I don't have to make $500,000 more revenue. That's a whole truck a year. What would drop to the bottom line? I don't have to run that truck to have the same revenue, right? And then insurance is the same way, like all your bills. And also on the other side, you can ask your vendors, hey, do you have certain levels? Like you guys have levels. When you get to levels, you get different things. So am I at that level, or do you have different discounts? I was a small company, now I'm a medium company, or whatever. Do you have better pricing? You'd be so surprised. One time I was working with a vendor, and I said, hey, am I at your best price? He goes, you're at my best price, but I'll tell you what, if you will beat last year's revenue that you paid us, I'll backtrack and give you all your shipping back for free. Like that was a $12,000 thing for me. If I just hit my same revenue numbers or beat my revenue numbers not revenue, but purchasing numbers. And I'm like, that's a good goal. Like he set a goal for me to give me a discount. I'm not saying anybody does that, but those questions can lead to amazing answers.
You make a good point, because it's easy when things are going really well. It's like, okay, that's a problem I don't have to solve. And you just kind of accept, these are my bills, and you don't question them. So it's easy to get kind of fat and happy, when you're off, making money and things are going well and it's working. And then all of a sudden you hit a little bump in the road. Then that's a good point. You do need to start questioning it. We don't do it every year, but when times have got really hard, we've gone through and just looked at, like, we take a lot of credit cards. So our credit card fees are like our biggest expense. So just shopping that, you can save, $100,000 or whatever,
That's exactly what we did. We spent $100,000 on merchant service fees. Again, that means I don't have to make $1 million if I'm at 10% profit. And 10% profit, that means that's, to me, 3 trucks. If I can save $100,000, that's, to me, 3 trucks and 2 trucks worth of profit for a year. And so we stopped taking credit cards for free. We charged the customer back. Now, you can argue that one way or another, but I can tell you this. We went from $100,000 in credit card fees to $6,000 last year in credit card fees on a lot of work. And some people complain. Most people just write us a check, and some people pay the credit card fee, and sometimes we waive it for certain situations, but that's $94,000 difference.
Yeah, it is. And it's amazing when you start looking at those things line by line. You think, oh my gosh, the reality is, you can always save. This is, I had a guy that he was a turnaround guy. He said you can always save 5%.
Right.
You can always save 5%. One of the things. So, you can always save 5%. It kind of stuck with me. But he was a turnaround. He was the guy that, when a company got in trouble, they hired him to come in and turn it around.
Right. 5% of $1 million company, that's somebody's salary. It's $50,000. That's a person.
That's, low hanging fruit. If you just look for it,
it's everywhere. If you look for it,
it is everywhere.
It really is. It's in everything you do. It's in your gas you buy. It's in, the other thing is, like, I started using credit cards for everything that have rewards on it. Those rewards cards for every purchase. Don't ever use a debit card in business. There's no protection. There's no rewards for it. Now I'm saying that, but I don't take credit cards now without a fee. Now, if you got to pay the fee to use your credit card, don't use your credit card if you can help keep from it. But if you're good at paying off your credit, there's so many benefits to using a credit card that has cash or points or whatever. And a lot of people just go, I use my debit card because I don't want to go in debt. Well, that's some of the worst money, in my opinion, that you can do, because if you have a purchase that's bad, you don't have any protection. And 2, there's so many extra points and benefits from using credit cards wisely it's a big miss on a lot of businesses.
Yeah, there's you leave a lot of money on the table. So
yeah,
that's good. So
so what's next, John? What's next for SaverSystems?
We haven't talked about PriorFIre.
Yeah,
the PriorFIre is. I mean, we would have a lot of fun with that. We've got Chris and I are working on a bigger unit, because we came out with this unit, and it's kind of
before you go too far into PriorFIre, tell everybody what it is. Like, go from the basics in case they've never seen.
The PriorFIre is a retrofit. It's a retrofit fireplace system. It's a lightweight. It's totally different design than some of the heavy cast units that are out there. It is. We use we use Chris Pryor's fireback design. But what's unique about it, we have a number of patents applied for. What's really cool about it is the back wall has no mortar joints, and so what Chris was president of the North American Masonry Heater Association, and one of the things that he learned from the Australian Masonry Heater Association is the most efficient way to burn is with over fire air. So we don't let it. So the system is designed to all the air comes over the fire, and as smoke rises up that back rosin shape, it siphons out the air that's preheated, goes through a plenum in the back of the unit, and it mixes with the hot gases and burns off hydrocarbons. And we use a lightweight material. It's a pressed vermiculite brick we get from Germany, and it's 7,000 psi pressed vermiculite brick, but it's non-conductive. So heavy masonry is very conductive. Heat goes through it until it stabilizes. But the non-conductive material that we use, we'll get firebox temperatures in a fireplace of like 2,100 degrees.
Oh my gosh. Are you serious? That would absolutely destroy most fireplaces.
Well, the biggest complaint we've had is on the units is people have to rearrange the furniture in our living room. It's like we met this one guy, one of the guys customer, she had some like plastic wicker furniture in her living room and she melted it.
On a fireplace, an open fireplace.
Open fireplace.
It's incredible. So, hey, Chris is watching. He just sent me a message, and I think he's drinking tonight because he said, "Jurate chat, guys." Chris by here.
Hey, Chris is over at Aileron working on the fireplaces over there.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it seems like Chris might be kind of a smart guy.
Oh, Chris is amazing. So, funny story about Chris and I. We've known each other for years. We'd always get together at conventions and say, I think we're supposed to do something together someday. So he'd say, yeah, we're supposed to do something. So we'd sit and talk, and we'd do some pencil sketches and whatnot. And so finally, the time was right. I said, dude, we got to do something. So I got these ideas and he had these ideas. And so we got together and we built this lab in one of our we got 3 buildings in town because we've kind of outgrown each one. But so we got this, I built this really cool space. We put 2 fireplaces in it. We've got all this stuff on it, thermocouples and
it's fascinating.
Gas flue separator. I mean, just, all kinds of stuff. And so anyway, there had never been much testing on fireplaces before because you can't really monetize a masonry fireplace. So, manufacturers said, nah, whatever, nobody's put any time into it. But so we wanted to kind of find out what the state of the art was, and then we wanted to try to make improvements on it. So we needed a way to measure that. So that's why we built the test lab. And so Chris and I just had a blast. We kind of ham and egged it over a 5-year period, just working on, he'd come out for a couple of weeks and then go home for a couple of months, come back for a couple of weeks. And we kind of did that over a 5-year period. And then we came up with something we really liked. We got excited about it. We tested at UL, and we also did something kind of groundbreaking. We actually have the unit listed for 2.5-inch clearance underneath the fireplace floor and hearth extension. So
what is that normally?
4 inches.
Right. So you can be right over.
You can be right on one layer of fire brick and be good with wood on underneath. Yeah. But that's a little additional insulation kit that we sell with it. It's a couple $100, but
some of the so you guys are starting to get traction. People are putting them in, and now people are starting to service these units. And some of the Facebook posts I've seen are people like, hey, this guy used it every day. Like, there's no creosote. It's burning super clean. Like, how are you getting that kind of efficiency out of open fireplaces?
Well, our efficiency is so we measured it. It's about 45% efficient for open fireplace, which is, off the charts.
What's a normal one for reference? A normal efficiency?
Normal fireplace is probably less than 20.
Yeah. So it's kicking out a lot more heat, a lot cleaner burning, smaller flue size, right? And then recently I saw that you did complete the smoke chamber part of the process.
Yeah, we have a stainless steel smoke dome where you can parge it in with the Formula 51, which is a parging material that Chris and I developed. So you can do that. We have run it on a 7-inch liner. There's a little smoke at startup. I wouldn't recommend it, but so we recommend 8-inch liner for it. But yeah, it's what's interesting about it is you don't see any smoke coming out the chimney. It's just like heat waves,
Right.
Once it gets cranking, I mean, obviously you get a little smoke in startup, but there's so much. The firebox temperatures are so crazy high. The bricks will, the bricks will be 1,800 degrees, and they'll be glowing in the back of the fireplace.
Are you serious?
And then the fireplace, the fire bed will be like 20. I think the highest we measured was 2,099, essentially 2,100. But yeah, it's kind of crazy.
So you had talked to, and you talked on this show about the UL. The people running the UL tests were just super impressed with your guys' setup. They were just kind of blown away by it.
Yeah, they'd never really seen anything. They'd never seen an open fireplace perform like that. They were just totally blown away. So it was with the engineering of it, the design of it and everything. That overfire air system that is really slick how it works. So basically the back wall mortar joints are open, and so air gets siphoned into the fire over the fire from that, and then we've got a heat dam in front. So it's a lot of science involved in it, the way it works. But they had never seen anything engineered like it before. We tested that unit 4 times because we kept going for lower and lower standards, or higher and higher standard. We kept, we failed to test a couple times doing the floor, trying to get it down to 2.5 inches, and so we kept having to kind of retest that way. But that unit took a lot of abuse, and the only problems we've had with it, if somebody really gets aggressive, they could chip a back wall brick or something, by chucking logs in it. If they get a real high coal bed and right at the apex, if you throw a big log on it, we've seen the corners chip on the units we've had in the lab. We haven't seen that in the field yet, but what's cool about it is it's easy to replace it. Everything's rebuildable, so you can in 20 minutes you can take down the back wall and put a new one up. If you have to,
because there's no mortar, they just pull out and click back in.
Yeah, so that's what we got patents on, is that clip system and some of the sidewall clips. Everything's, what's cool about it goes set like a Lego set, and anybody can do it, and it looks perfect. So you don't have to.
So recently, you guys came out with a bigger unit, correct?
We've got one. We've got a prototype. We're going to start testing it. In fact, Chris is going to be out this week. He's in Dayton this week working on some fireplaces for a chimney sweep over there at Aileron. And so anyway, this week we're going to get the prototype and start testing the prototype. The big unit is 9 inches wider, and so it's a big fireplace. But
that's cool.
Anyway, we're going to start testing it, see how much insulation we're going to need, floor and back and sides and everything. So
I really wish Chris would get to work. He seems pretty lazy and just seems like he just sits around all the time. Seems like
Well, Chris and I have had a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it. He's become one of my best friends. We've had he's going to be at the summit. He's going to be speaking a little bit at the summit. So
good.
We'll be hopefully introducing the big unit at the summit. So.
Oh, is that right? Cool.
Yeah.
Well, man, we're at our 1 hour time. I've had a lot of great comments from people. As we close out with John, is there any final questions you'd like me to ask one of the greatest innovators of our time in this industry? I would say the greatest. I don't think there's been anybody in our industry do more for this industry than you, John. And I'm honored to call you a friend and a mentor. And what you said, and I don't want this to come off wrong, but when you said you asked God what to do and he told you and you just did it, I feel the same way about you, John. When you tell me, Mark, you need to do something, it's super simple for me. If John Meredith tells me I need to do something, I do it. And I appreciate that about you. And I tell everybody, I mean, the secret to this whole business is just copy what the guys tell you to do. Just listen to your mentors and just do it. Like why not try it? It may not work, but on the other side of it, so many people listen to so much advice and do nothing with it. And for me, if you say, Mark, you need to think about this, or this is what something you need to look at, it's just simple for me. That's a go.
The guys that implement it, the guys that take action are the ones that win. You don't have to be. What's beautiful about this industry is everybody wants to help you.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not like it's unique in that respect. And if you're coming up and you're growing in this industry, just go to the guys that are kind of a few steps ahead of you and find out what they're doing and do it. And the guys that I remember Steve Blackburn, one of my mentors,
mine
years
too.
ago. Steve, he was an amazing. He would go to a seminar and he'd hear something and he'd call me up and say, "Well, that worked or that didn't work," but he tried everything.
He tried everything. And I think that is exactly what, I mean, again, here, this is Kevin Russell, because I know this saying. He's like, I'll wait till right now to get it done. And he is like that, man. That dude implements too. I'll wait till, how about, is right now a good time? How's now for you? And he does. And he'll tell you, I've been around him. He's like, now's the time to get anything done. It's never later. And I remember a quick story about Kevin. We were, he was trying to get the rights to a song from a very famous person. He writes to a song that he wanted to have for Warrior Horse. And it's kind of his theme song, but he wanted to kind of tie them into it. And man, he was on the phone. He was leaving a message for lawyers. He was calling everybody he could. And this was like at 7 o'clock at night on a Saturday. Like, he's like, as soon as we found a reason to do something or a thought, he's like, oh, well, let's just make some phone calls and write some emails. Like, that's how he was. And I believe you're that way too. When you see something, sometimes you do beat around an idea for a while, like with Chris, and finally you're like, okay, now's the time. Let's go all in. And you guys have a great track record of getting a lot done. And I think we're all better for that. And so I really appreciate you, John Meredith.
Appreciate you, bro. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is right now.
Yep. I totally agree with that. And man, if you're out there listening and ask questions, talk to people, and then the best, most honorable thing you can ever do is implement on their idea. To me, like if somebody asks me what to do and I tell you and you implement it, that's what makes it good for us. That's honorable. What you don't want to do is ask a guy and he pours into you and tells you what to do, and then you don't do anything with it. That's insulting. And for me, I always wanted to honor you. You helped me so much when I was hurting that, to give back. I'm like, if he tells me I'm going to do it, because I want him to know that I respect what he says. And here I go getting a little emotional, but
I did get you to cry at your summit. I did get you to cry at your summit though, when I did my appreciation demonstration. But I do want to give you a shameless plug to the summit. We're selling out about 5 rooms a day. So if you want to come, don't wait. Do what Kevin does. Sign up now. We're selling out.
I think this is from TJ right here. He says, PriorFIre makes me want to come out of retirement. that's
TJ.
Yeah.
TJ was one of my mentors. I love TJ. He's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And then this from Diane. He says, everyone should have a mentor.
Amen.
That's a great way to end it, Diane. Thank you for always being part of the show. All right, man. Well, thank you. Have a good night. Appreciate you very much.
Appreciate you. Thanks. Good night.
Well, you guys got a chance to hear from John Meredith. I hope it meant a lot to you, and I hope you got a lot from it. Again, we're all getting ready to go home and are hopefully be with family, but some people are just going to do their own thing. But no matter where you are, that's what this weekend is about, being thankful for the things you do have. And John also told me one thing that always stuck with me. He said, when you have your health, you have 1,000 wishes. And when you don't have your health, you have 1 wish. And if nothing else, if you have your health, be grateful for it. And if you don't, man, focus on getting yourself back to a good shape and do the right things. I'm as guilty as anybody about that. But I was telling him, we went on a sailing trip, and I couldn't enjoy the sailing trip because I had a neck issue. I had a blown disc. and I could not enjoy anything. I was taking painkillers. All the guys, it's funny, we were with a bunch of older guys and everybody had painkillers with them and they were all feeding them to me so I could just at least have dinner. And so they were all trying to help me. And I was just at one of the lowest points I've ever been in my life. And those guys are helping me. And I get in there and I'm just wishing for neck pain to go away. And luckily I had surgery. They fixed my neck. And you talk about being grateful when you don't have your health, that's the time it's tough. So be grateful for everything that is a blessing to you. So with that, guys, have a great Thanksgiving. Thank you for joining me tonight. It means so much that we have good listeners and good participation. I think that's what this is all about. All right. We'll talk to you soon. See you. Bye-bye.